Pennsylvania has a place where the ground has been on fire since 1962. What makes it scary is how normal everything looks above it. You can drive past regular roads and neighbourhoods while the fire keeps burning underground. And that's why people miss so much in Pennsylvania. Because the most unreal places here don't look special until you know what you're looking at. Like Eckley Miners' Village, a preserved coal company town where the streets and homes are still standing, with around 200 buildings and structures still here. And Coppley Cement Company Kilns, huge brick kiln towers from early cement production that helped supply the material that built modern America. They've been around for years, but hardly anyone mentions them. And once you see them, it makes sense why they matter. Eckley Miners' Village began as a purpose-built coal town, designed by a mining company to house the workers who fueled its operations. From the outset, the company owned the homes, the stores, and even the church, which forced miners to spend their wages within the same system that paid them. In daily life, families lived in identical row houses with thin walls, while coal dust settled on furniture, clothing, and even dinner tables. As a result, privacy was scarce, with the company controlling visitors, purchases, and housing, and evicting families if a miner was injured or died. When coal mining collapsed, Eckley wasn't rebuilt or erased. It simply stopped, leaving behind wooden sidewalks and hand-dug cellars beneath each home. Years later, the abandoned town gained a second life when Hollywood filmed here, and instead of tearing the set down, officials preserved it exactly as it stood. The film that helped save the village told a story of workers pushing back, a sharp contrast to a real place built on control. Those same quiet streets are now shared by American robins, hopping along old miner paths and searching for worms in a much gentler world. Fittingly, a single bird eats many worms by using sharp eyesight and careful listening to sense movement beneath the soil before catching them. As the seasons change, the diet shifts, and in late fall some robins eat fermented berries, becoming briefly intoxicated and wobbling through the air or bumping into windows. Despite appearances, the famous redbreast is an illusion. It's actually orange, named red by early settlers before the word orange existed. That same bold colouring fuels their attitude, as males often attack their own reflections in mirrors and windows. Not long ago, these birds nearly vanished altogether, poisoned by pesticides sprayed on farms and lawns, chemicals similar to those that once drifted over mining towns and sickened workers. Nevertheless, the species survived, returning year after year to the same yards by navigating with Earth's magnetic field. After dark, the robins give way to new residents, as raccoons roam the old mining village too, and move through familiar ground in search of very different meals. These clever mammals have hands so skillful they can unlock doors, unzip backpacks, and open jars. They even wash their food in water, not to clean it, but because wetting their paws sharpens their sense of touch, so they can explore and manipulate objects in complete darkness. Raccoons also have impressive memories, able to recall solutions to tasks for up to 3 years, ensuring they never forget where food or opportunities lie. Their signature masked faces aren't just for style. The black fur reduces glare, much like the eye black athletes use, improving night vision during their hunting excursions. Adding to their agility, they can rotate their back feet backwards, which allows them to climb down trees head first. They carry a roundworm in their droppings, harmless to them, but potentially dangerous to humans if contaminated dust is inhaled. When food is scarce in winter, raccoons don't hibernate fully. Instead, they enter a light sleep, lowering their body temperature slightly, while staying ready to awaken on warmer days. These nighttime wanderers eventually head to water, following instincts to lakes and streams, sometimes all the way to Lake Erie's shores, where fish and prey wait in abundance. The lake once seemed lifeless, poisoned by pollution so severe that officials declared it dead, with nothing surviving in its waters. Dead fish piled along beaches in towering heaps, bulldozers struggling to clear them, while oil and chemical slicks on the surface even caught fire multiple times. Against all odds, cleanup and conservation efforts revived Lake Erie, proving that even an ecosystem deemed permanently lost can recover if given a chance. Now the lake freezes almost completely in winter, forming ice roads that people occasionally drive across, though a sudden wind can crack the ice in moments. Along its shore sits Presque Isle State Park, a hook of sand that juts into the water and creates a natural harbour that once decided the outcome of wars. Over time, this peninsula has acted almost like a living thing, constantly shifting so that beaches from decades ago now lie underwater, while new land emerges where waves once crashed. The sand is so unstable that crews must dump thousands of tons each year to prevent the park from washing away entirely. Powerful storms can slice the peninsula in half overnight, temporarily turning it into an island until crews restore the road linking it back to the mainland. Among the hundreds of passing birds, killdeer nest directly on the open ground, their eggs perfectly camouflaged to look like the surrounding pebbles. To protect their precious cargo, these birds put on one of nature's most dramatic shows. They fake a broken wing and limp, leading predators away before flying off unharmed. Killdeer hunt beetles, grasshoppers and earthworms by running a short distance, stopping to bob their bodies and then jabbing at prey the moment it moves. Their name might make you think they hunt deer, but it actually comes from their loud, piercing call, which sounds like someone shouting, "Killdeer," over and over. Humans don't scare them off. These birds nest in gravel parking lots, flat rooftops, and even baseball fields. Ground nesting and adaptable, they survive across open areas, even near landmarks like the Reading Pagoda, where tourists admire the view while the wildlife carries on just below. Interestingly, it was originally planned as a luxury hotel, but the builder failed so spectacularly that it never hosted a single guest, leaving a giant empty shell perched on the hill. Today, it flashes coloured lights, which people in the valley use like a giant mood ring, changing hues to mark holidays, sports wins and losses, or even personal messages. Inside, a massive bell, shipped from overseas long before the pagoda was built, now hangs silently in a tower that was never used for its original purpose. At night, bobcats prowl the slopes and nearby woods, slipping almost silently between rocks and trees. From a standstill, these cats can leap farther than the length of a small car, snatching rabbits or squirrels before the prey even registers movement. In the dark, they can see about 6 times better than humans, backed by sharp night vision and long whiskers to hunt in near total darkness. Their steps are so light that snow barely crunches beneath their paws, letting them creep within a few steps of sleeping animals. During lean times, they stash leftovers beneath leaves or snow, then come back later to reclaim the hidden meal. Each bobcat defends its own hunting territory and will confront rivals that wander onto the same hillsides or forest trails. Their short, bobbed tails act like signal flags that flick to reveal whether the cat is calm, irritated, or ready to strike. From these city hills, bobcats can roam north through connected woods and river valleys, eventually reaching the larger wild stretches of Allegheny National Forest. It seems old and untouched, but it was once stripped bare. Some hills were called a wasteland, before growing back into thick woods with hidden ponds and abundant wildlife. Even so, signs of human activity remain. Oil and gas wells pump fuel along trails, and massive dams flood valleys, hiding old roads, stone walls, and sunken homes. Nearby abandoned logging railroads have decayed into raised trails, allowing visitors to follow the very paths once packed with endless trains of cut timber. Over time, the forest has become a refuge for species lost from much of the state, including fishers, bobcats, and secretive songbirds that rely on large, unbroken woods to survive. On quiet days, animal tracks often outnumber human footprints along the trails. Among the largest residents roaming these woods is the American black bear, moving from ridge to river bottom in search of food as the seasons shift. With a nose built for the forest, they can detect a candy bar tucked in a backpack from far beyond where you could ever see or hear it. They're opportunistic feeders. They open rotten logs like cardboard and devour almost anything in their path. Nuts, berries, insects, carrion, and even colonies of ants. As winter approaches, a bear's appetite intensifies, and in just a few months of non-stop foraging, it can nearly double its body weight. When hibernation finally arrives, these bears go for weeks without urinating or defecating, their bodies recycling waste to stay healthy during the long, restful slumber. Remarkably, a mother bear can give birth to tiny cubs during hibernation, nursing them in the den while barely waking until spring sunlight warms the forest again. Throughout their territory, bears leave claw marks on smooth tree trunks, bare trees that act as message boards, letting others sniff and read their presence. Even near humans, they move with stealth, sometimes bedding down just meters from roads and cabins, hidden in dense thickets, while unaware hikers pass by. Beyond the bear-filled forests, the Allegheny River carves its way through the valley, shaping the land just as the wildlife does. Interestingly, this river flows the wrong way compared to nearby rivers, going north before turning south, which confused early map makers. In the past, log and oil booms flooded towns along the river, carrying houses, barns, and even parts of bridges downstream. Poison from early oil drilling and factories killed fish so badly that parts of the river were written off as dead. Yet today, it hides species that only survive in the cleanest waters. Huge dams transformed long stretches into a chain of quiet lakes, drowning old towns, farms, and burial sites that still lie beneath layers of mud. Diving headfirst into the current, belted kingfishers stake out fishing spots along the water, hovering mid-air before plunging after their next meal. Remarkably, their eyes have built-in goggles that let them see clearly through the splash, so they can spot and snatch a fish, even after hitting the water at full speed. They slam into the river with a force that would knock out most birds, but special bones and muscles in their heads absorb the impact with ease. Kingfishers don't nest in trees. Instead, they drill long tunnels into dirt banks using both beak and feet, raising their chicks in dark underground chambers that smell strongly of fish. The tunnel floors get coated in fish bones and slime, yet the chicks survive inside these rotting fish caves for weeks before venturing out. Following the river upstream, the water leads to Kinzua Bridge State Park, home to an engineering marvel that once collapsed in minutes during a violent storm. Originally, the bridge was built quickly and lightly, so much so that trains crossing it made the structure sway and left passengers feeling as if they were floating in mid-air. Later rebuilt in steel to handle heavier trains, it still fell victim to nature when a single tornado snapped massive support towers like toy sticks, hurling them into the valley. Rather than removing the wreckage, crews left the fallen pieces scattered below, which turned the broken bridge into a giant outdoor museum of twisted metal. Meanwhile, the surviving section was transformed into a skywalk with a glass floor, letting visitors look straight down at the shattered debris. Lightning, wind and rust continue to gnaw at both the old wreck and the new walkway. In the shadow of the fallen bridge, dead trees now stand as habitat for wildlife, with hairy woodpeckers tapping relentlessly on bark in search of insects hidden beneath. Amazingly, some birds can slam their beaks into wood so hard and so often that a person trying the same feat with their forehead would be knocked out in seconds. Its tongue is so long it actually wraps around the back of its skull, inside the head, which act like a built-in seatbelt that keeps the brain safe while it hammers. As they drill, these birds create perfectly round holes that other animals later claim as their homes. They can hear bugs crawling inside wood that sounds solid to us, then chisel precisely to the spot, almost like having X-ray vision for grubs. In damaged forests, hairy woodpeckers often switch to feeding on insects in dead trees, quietly controlling beetle outbreaks that would otherwise kill even more trees. Their constant drumming on metal signs, poles, and even parts of the old bridge can echo like someone firing a tiny machine gun through the forest. From wreckage and decay, these birds help rebuild the forest, while humans long sought their own miracle in the legendary Fountain of Youth. It earned its name from an old legend that certain waters could preserve youth forever, even though the water itself is entirely ordinary. Stonework and a sign were added to match the legend, turning an ordinary spring in the woods into a do-it-yourself eternal youth attraction. Over time, the structure around the spring cracked, shifted, and began to crumble, aging in the very place built to promise staying young. Not far from this fading roadside curiosity sits Jim Thorpe, a mountain town wedged into cliffs so steep that people nicknamed it the Switzerland of America. The town was originally called Mauch Chunk and merged two smaller towns just to buy the body of a famous athlete who had never even visited, changing their name to get tourists. Just up the street, the Asapaka mansion looks like a fairy tale castle on the outside, but inside it hides secret closets where the owner stashed cash to dodge taxes. Grand mansions here were built by coal and railroad bosses who got so wealthy they covered walls inside with gold leaf and real marble stolen from faraway quarries. Farther down the valley, the real backbone of the area's industry rose in massive ovens known as the Coppley Cement Company Kilns. Inside them, raw rock was heated with such intensity that it transformed into the building material of rapidly growing cities. That cement travelled far, meaning parts of modern bridges, buildings and roads were once baked inside these towering shells. Then, almost overnight, faster rotary kilns made these giants obsolete, leaving them behind like a row of empty stone chimneys. Instead of being torn down, the kilns were preserved as an outdoor museum. As the kilns fall quiet, another sound takes over downstream, the steady rush of Wissahickon Creek Falls. It plunges over a sheer rock face that looks hand-carved, with water splitting into white ribbons that twist before smashing into the pool below. During heavy rains, the falls explode into a churning monster that rearranges boulders downstream like a giant playing with pebbles. Among the spray-soaked trees around the falls, northern flickers probe for ants with tongues longer than their beaks. Unlike most woodpeckers, they spend long stretches on the ground, flipping wet leaf litter for food as if the forest floor were an endless buffet. To handle the impact, their skulls are built with natural shock absorbers, which allow them to hammer wood thousands of times a day without injury. When they finally lift off, bright flashes of colour flare beneath their wings, visible only in flight like a sudden signal. At times they drum on metal signs, chimneys and gutters so loudly that entire neighbourhoods think construction has started. Over time, the holes they carve in soft, rotting trunks become shelters for other animals, and a single tree becomes shared housing. Just beyond these woods lies Yellow Dog Village, a charming, spooky little town hidden among the trees. It was built in the mining boom as company housing, where workers signed strict yellow dog contracts that banned them from joining unions in exchange for homes and higher pay. At its peak, the village functioned as a tight-knit community with family houses, shared buildings, and daily life that felt stable by mining standards. When the limestone operations shut down, the town slowly thinned out, then collapsed completely after the water supply became unsafe, which drove the final residents to leave. The settlement was abandoned so abruptly that plates, toys, and clothes still sit where they were last touched, as if everyone stepped out midday and never returned. Beyond the abandoned buildings, the rolling Pocono Mountains rise, their forested slopes turning fiery red and orange each fall. Once known as the honeymoon capital of the world, with tacky heart-shaped tubs, it later became a year-round playground with water parks, ski slopes, and family resorts. It rose from bare rock after massive glaciers scraped the whole area clean, with peaks that look sharp and new compared to worn-down hills elsewhere. Susquehanna Creek running through the area was dammed so many times for mills and industry that the original wild riverbed is now buried under layers of mud and forgotten stone walls. During peak tourist season, traffic stretches for miles as city visitors clog twisty roads, often unaware that black bears are watching from just off the shoulder. Even amid the activity of visitors and roads, northern forests come alive with the movements of yellow-rumped warblers, darting through the trees in search of insects. These tiny birds can digest waxy berries that poison most other songbirds, which provides them a survival advantage when winter drives others south. They eat so many of these fruits that their droppings turn slimy and stick to branches, and their roosts begin to smell like melting crayons in the sun. Their bright yellow rump patch only shows when they fly or hop, acting as a secret signal to guide other warblers to the best food. During migration, they gather in flocks so thick they resemble swarms of bees, sweeping through treetops and stripping insects from every branch. Some individuals don't migrate at all, toughing out freezing winters on wax-coated fruit, and this proves just how hardy they really are. The streams these warblers follow eventually merge and widen, feeding into the huge reservoir called Lake Wallenpaupack. This lake did not exist until a power company flooded 3 towns to create it, which made families leave long-held homes and sank churches, schools and graveyards beneath the water. During droughts, falling water levels expose stone foundations in the mud, clear outlines of neighbourhoods lost beneath the surface. Beneath the lake, divers have found old roads, iron fences, and even house chimneys still standing upright in the dim water decades later. The dam itself went up so fast that workers sealed tools, equipment, and even lunch pails inside the concrete, where they remain trapped. Some of the liveliest residents are river otters, sliding along muddy banks and hunting through the lake's shallow waters. Capable of holding their breath underwater for up to 8 minutes while chasing fish, these otters outdive most marine mammals their size. They also fashion natural water slides on muddy or snowy banks and use them repeatedly, simply for fun. Dense fur keeps water from ever touching an otter's skin, with up to 1 million hairs packed into each square inch, acting like a built-in waterproof suit. Clever and bold, they sometimes steal fish right from lines and live wells on boats, and clean out entire catches before anyone notices. Territorial by nature, they mark their boundaries with latrines, poop piles placed on rocks and logs as smelly warning signs to other otters. Groups of otters called a romp live up to their name when playing, wrestling, and belly sliding together. In a completely different corner of the state sits Intercourse Village, famous mostly for its embarrassing name that causes endless jokes and pulls in curious visitors. The name originally meant the entrance to a town, or a place where 2 roads meet, though modern tourists treat it like the world's funniest accident. Because of this fame, gift shops rake in money selling mugs, magnets and t-shirts with slogans like "I love intercourse," snapped up by the truckload as gag gifts. Road signs get stolen so often that officials had to install heavier, harder to remove replacements, yet they still vanish regularly. The village once considered changing its name, but the embarrassing publicity proved too profitable to give up. Beyond the jokes, it is a quiet farming community where horse-drawn buggies move along the streets while tourists laugh at the town name. Most residents are Amish families who ignore visitors and continue farming, quilting, and handcrafting furniture, as their ancestors have done for generations. Here, they follow strict rules banning electricity, cars, and modern clothing, which forms a community frozen in time. Beyond lifestyle, they handle their own finances and needs, avoiding government help and relying on their community for healthcare, retirement, and disaster relief. If one family needs a new barn, hundreds of neighbours show up to build the entire structure in a single day using only hand tools and horsepower. On the roads, their horse-drawn buggies share space with speeding cars. Across the surrounding countryside, the farms stretch across Lancaster County in a patchwork of fields worked entirely by hand, horse and muscle, instead of tractors and machines. It earns more farm income per acre than almost anywhere else in the country, yet the Amish keep their methods strictly traditional. Crops are fertilised with manure from their own animals, spread by hand or horse-drawn wagon, which yield surprisingly large vegetables without chemical boosts. The same plots have been farmed by the same families for centuries, passed from father to son, without ever being subdivided or sold outside the community. During harvest, entire neighbourhoods gather to cut, bundle, and store crops in a single day. These farms prove old methods can last long, but the Austin Dam ruins show what happens when shortcuts and modern tricks backfire catastrophically. Just 6 months after it was built, the dam broke, even though it was supposed to last forever. Engineers skipped basic safety tests and used cheap concrete that crumbled like cookies under water pressure. The company rushed construction to start making paper faster, ignoring basic safety along the way. Despite being called the dam that could not break, it collapsed less than 2 years after completion. Dynamite was used to release pressure from the bowing structure, then patched with concrete that never fully hardened. Rushing through town, the flood carried a staggering quantity of lumber. The streams from its remains feed into the Susquehanna River, a winding, powerful waterway. From above, the river twists so sharply, it looks like a giant snake slithering across the land. Long ago, people treated it like a highway, yet today some stretches feel quieter than an abandoned back road. Hidden under mud, old canal tools, sunken boats and lost machines lie like a forgotten treasure trove. In shallow spots, huge fish get trapped in tiny pools, which form surprise aquariums overnight. Toxic runoff, coal dust and farm chemicals still flow through the river, yet rare turtles and fish somehow survive. Strange foam, green slime, and deformed fish hint at the river's rough past, nature's warning written in bright colours. Along the banks, indigo buntings flash like electric sparks over the water. Their blue colour isn't from pigment. Their feathers bend light like tiny prisms, so they appear bright blue, even though they're actually dark. A dull brown bird can fly south, come back, and suddenly glow bright blue just by twisting its feathers to catch the light. Some buntings return almost to the same bush year after year, like a traveller who always picks the same hotel room. They use the position of the stars in the night sky to guide their long flights, even inside test rooms where only fake stars are shown. Males sometimes sing from a single high perch all day, like tiny sirens guarding a patch of tangled shrubs, as if it were a royal kingdom. They learn their songs from older males, so one wrong teacher can pass a new accent across the whole river valley. These birds often pick messy, brushy edges and weedy riverbanks that people ignore, and they transform throwaway land into prime real estate. Light pollution and bright buildings can confuse them so badly that they crash into windows, turning city lights into deadly traps. Indigo buntings chase light and insects along the riverbanks, while not far away, Hershey chases tourists with chocolate and the promise of being the sweetest place on earth. Here, even the streetlights are shaped like wrapped candies, so a normal walk feels like stepping through a giant chocolate ad. What began as a simple park for factory workers to relax, slowly transformed into a full theme park, packed with rides, mascots and sugar at every turn. At Chocolate World, fake cows sing about chocolate, while real machines quietly show how candy moves from raw mix to wrapped bar. Visitors can even design their own candy bar, seal it with their name, and leave holding something that exists nowhere else. the sweetness runs so strong that school names, sports teams, and street signs all feel lightly dusted in cocoa. Hershey smells like sugar and fun, yet farther down the road in Centralia, the ground itself smells like smoke from a fire that never stops. The blaze began far below in abandoned coal tunnels and spread so quietly that the first warning came when pavement cracked and steam seeped upward. At one point, a sinkhole opened in a backyard and nearly swallowed a child, with hot, toxic air pouring out strong enough to knock someone unconscious. Underground, the fire creeps through coal seams like a slow-moving beast, heating the soil until snow melts in strange lines across the surface. Meanwhile, gas and smoke leak through tiny cracks in yards, roads, and even graves, which makes parts of the town look like they are breathing. Over time, nearly every house was demolished, leaving empty streets, sidewalks, and stop signs that now point only to grass and silence. Centralia shows what happens when fire wins, while Pittsburgh shows how a smoky factory town turned into a place of bridges, sports, and busy river life. With more than 440 bridges, its neighbourhoods are stitched together across the water. Once upon a darker chapter, the city produced so much smoke that streetlights burned at noon because daylight couldn't punch through the haze. Then came a turnaround. After the steel mill shut down, it reinvented itself, transforming from the country's dirtiest city to one of its cleanest. In a quieter triumph, this city helped change the world by developing the modern polio vaccine, saving millions of children across generations. Fittingly, the rivers that once poisoned fish are now clean enough for swimming, fishing, and returning wildlife. The city's oldest neighbourhoods contain rows of historic houses that survived steel smoke, floods, and over 2 centuries of change. Victorian houses add a different flair, with turreted towers, wraparound porches, and stained glass windows that scatter sunlight into shifting colours across the floors. Many of these houses were built so close together that they share walls and fused chimneys, their thin interiors carrying full conversations, family arguments, and the clink of dinner plates. Near these brick homes stands the Cathedral of Learning, a symbol this city replaced factory floors with classroom floors as its future. Its name comes from its church-like design, treating education as something so important it deserves the same grand architecture as religion. It rises like a giant stone castle tower dropped into the middle of a regular school, so tall that classrooms stacked like books on a shelf. The building has even become a local landmark for romance, as couples use it for weddings and photos, turning a college tower into a giant backdrop. At night, its glowing windows transform it into a beacon of learning, like a massive study lamp, illuminating the whole city. From its upper floors, the view stretches across the city toward Mount Washington. It looks like a giant front row seat, where the city itself becomes the TV screen and the three rivers ripple like moving special effects. Long before it became a scenic overlook, this hill was carved for coal and timber, so the pretty vista rests atop old raw work sites. Visitors ride funicular railways up the cliff face, with cars that tilt to stay level, while climbing tracks so steep they look like walls. Just outside the city limits, something crashed into the woods that no one can fully explain even today. The Kecksburg UFO Incident began when people reported a glowing object in the sky that seemed to slow down instead of falling like a normal rock. Witnesses said it landed in the trees and resembled a huge metal acorn, more than a classic flying saucer. Some claimed they saw strange markings carved into its sides, symbols that did not match any language they knew. While Kecksburg keeps its secrets, a different kind of quiet waits at Speedwell Forge Lake. Years ago, this body of water was drained so deeply that people walked where fish once swam, before it was later refilled, a change that brought the place an almost resurrection-like return. When the water came back, turtles, frogs and birds moved in with surprising speed, as if nature hit an instant reset. On calm mornings, the water turns glassy, which makes kayaks appear to float in the sky as clouds and trees mirror perfectly below. Along the shore, visitors watch quietly for wildlife, often unaware that rare birds use this peaceful lake as a hidden rest stop during long migrations. If you listen carefully near the shore, one tiny bird dominates the soundscape with endless chirps and melodies, the song sparrow. Even when people go quiet and boats stop moving, the lake never feels truly silent, as those songs hum on like background music. In this area, no two males sound exactly alike, which gives each one a distinct audio signature. Young birds don't learn just one tune. Instead, they mix fragments they hear around the shore into a personalised version. Over time, the strongest voices secure the best reed-top stages, turning sound into real leverage over space and mates. They also recognise familiar voices, quickly telling long-time neighbours apart from newcomers testing boundaries. The cheerful noise of the song sparrow is a far cry from the old jail museum, where prisoners stayed completely quiet in stone cells as a strict coal-era prison-turned-museum. Inside, the cells are so small and bare that visitors feel cramped after minutes, and one wall still bears a strange handprint stain, a mystery mark never fully erased despite cleaning. Iron doors slam so loudly that tours use the sound to show how terrifying it would be with no way out, while tiny punishment cells now act as spaces tourists step into for fun photos. Nearby, the river town of Columbia kept people and goods constantly moving through its busy docks and bridges. Long before highways, its streets were packed with wagons, canal boats and later trains, all squeezing through town just across the wide river. The town once dreamed big enough to aim for the nation's capital, a proof that even a small river town could think like a major city. Its riverfront carried coal, lumber and iron so constantly that some children grew up thinking freight cars and barges were just part of the scenery. A giant bridge here served more than travel. It was once set on fire intentionally to stop an invading army from crossing. Old railroad tracks still slice through neighbourhoods, a sign that train whistles once acted like alarm clocks for the whole town. As they moved goods with boats and rails, Armenia Mountain Wind Farm captures energy from something even simpler, the wind. The turbines rise in long rows across the ridge, and when they all spin together, it looks like a slow-motion fan aimed at the sky. Each tower only works when the wind speed is just right, so the whole farm seems to choose which turbines spin and which rest. High above those blinking lights, a much faster hunter sometimes cuts through the air, built for speed instead of spinning, the peregrine falcon. It uses the tall turbine towers and ridges like launch pads, then pushes off the edge and folds its wings to dive on prey below. With eyes so sharp, it can spot a tiny bird far beneath and judge the exact moment to strike. Special bumps and grooves on its face push rushing air away from its nose, so it can breathe even during wild dives. This bird can drop out of the sky so fast that if cars moved like that, no road or brake would be safe enough. They build their nests on high vertical cliff ledges, rocky crags, and increasingly on man-made structures like skyscrapers, bridges, church steeples, and towers. Once struggling to survive in many places, they now use human-made towers as hunting tools instead of avoiding them. On the ground, a failed experiment in concrete construction stands frozen in time, the concrete city. Every house was poured entirely from concrete, walls, floors and roofs, like someone tried to build a whole neighbourhood out of one giant sidewalk. The company made every home identical, so families lived in copy-paste boxes with no chance to show personal style on the outside. When the mine closed and the town was no longer needed, the owners tried to tear the houses down, but found the concrete so tough it was cheaper to abandon them. Nature slowly grew through the cracks, with trees, grass and graffiti sharing space, with the rigid grey walls meant to control every inch of life. While this city crumbled into silence, Bethlehem transformed into the Christmas city of the country, for reasons that go way beyond decorations. Once home to one of the most powerful steel plants, it is now better known for twinkling lights, markets, holiday music, and Moravian touches like star-shaped lamps and white candles. The same metal beams that built massive projects far away were made in a town where factory workers once rushed to shifts, and today those buildings host concerts and festivals. During the holiday season, giant steel structures stand as dark outlines behind lights, which transform the skyline into a scene where Christmas seems built atop an old factory set. Christmas tours pass blast furnaces and rail lines, and treat them as stage props for the holiday story, rather than hiding them. Kids growing up here can see both steel ruins and holiday markets in a single walk, a lesson that a town can reinvent itself without erasing its tough past. As this town turned factories into celebration spaces, Ohiopyle town and falls stayed raw and untamed, where rapids and waterfalls do all the work. At its centre, the falls slam into rock with such force that entire rafts vanish in white spray, then pop back out like toys in a washing machine. That same power isn't just for show, as the water has flipped boats, snapped paddles, and sent even expert kayakers swimming after a single misread rapid. Just downstream, calmer stretches offer a different thrill, where swimmers slide over smooth stone chutes into quiet pools, turning the river into a natural water park. Nearby old rail lines now serve as gentle bike paths, letting riders glide above sheer drops where trains once hauled coal and lumber. All the while, the constant roar of falling water fills the gorge, so loud that birds and insects must shout just to find one another. One bird in particular seems built for this noisy, wooded chaos, hammering on tree trunks around the gorge, the pileated woodpecker. Its explosive drumroll rings so sharply that hikers sometimes mistake the sound for an axe biting into a hollow log. Behind that noise is serious armour, a shock-absorbing skull, and powerful neck muscles that let it strike wood again and again without injury. With that strength, it carves tall, rectangular holes into dead trees, leaving spaces so large that smaller birds and mammals later move in. Reaching far inside, a remarkably long tongue snakes through those tunnels to snag ants and beetle larvae hidden beyond other birds' reach. Meanwhile, the blazing red crest acts like a visual shout, helping mates and rivals spot it instantly in dense forest cover. When it finally lifts off, broad wings and bold markings flash through the trees, so it looks like a flying crow topped with a red hat. Over time, every cavity it leaves behind reshapes the woods, which turn lifeless trunks into busy apartment blocks for wildlife. If this bird is the forest's carpenter, then the beaver is its engineer, reshaping streams and ponds by gnawing through trunks one bite at a time. Its teeth never stop growing, so it must keep chewing wood, or its own tools would become too long to use. These animals drag branches and mud into the water to build dams that slow rushing streams into calm, controllable pools. Their wide tails double as rudder, kick paddle and alarm, slapping the water to warn others of danger. Acting like built-in swim goggles, their special clear eyelids allow it to see underwater while carrying sticks and logs. The lodges have hidden underwater doorways, so the family can slip in and out, safely away from land predators. These constructions transform the surrounding habitat and form pools and wetlands that quickly attract new wildlife. The wide Susquehanna River eventually flows past a small town that most people miss while staring at the bigger city across the water, Wormleysburg. Trains, trucks and boats all pass within sight or sound, so this small town sits in the middle of non-stop movement while keeping a mostly low-key presence. Old riverfront buildings hint that this quiet place once functioned like a side porch for the capital, with warehouses, docks and small businesses feeding off city activity. While this small town blends into everyday life, a few miles away massive concrete domes sit in the forest, the bunkers of Alvira, left over from a top-secret operation. The military built an entire village here, displacing families out and erasing a whole town called Alvira to make room for the base. These bunkers were designed to store explosives, with walls so thick that a blast would stay contained rather than spread. Each structure looks like a small hill with a door, perfectly camouflaged so planes flying overhead would completely miss them. Inside, some unlocked bunkers are mostly empty, but a few still contain strange leftovers, like old film reels, tyres, signage, and random junk piles that visitors stumble across in the dim light. Nearby, the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area opens wide vistas, with the gap itself like a giant axe cutting a perfect river passage between sheer cliffs. This huge park exists partly because a planned highway was stopped before it could cut through the gap, preserving the land visitors explore today. Along its riverbanks and wetlands, one tall hunter stands perfectly still in the shallows, waiting to strike. The great blue heron can freeze in one spot so long that people walk right past, thinking it's a statue or a piece of driftwood. Its long toes spread wide, keeping it balanced on mud and slippery rocks where other birds would sink or slip. When it strikes, the neck unfolds like a hidden spring, and its sharp beak snaps forward faster than most people can blink. A heron can spear, grab, or stab prey depending on what swims by, and it changes hunting styles like tools in a kit. It swallows fish whole and head first, sometimes revealing the bulge of a meal sliding down its throat. These birds hunt alone and guard their fishing spots fiercely, chasing off others that get too close to their claimed patch of water. Despite their calm appearance, their loud croaking calls sound more like an annoyed dinosaur than a graceful bird. As the heron waits by day in the shallows, another hunter takes over the same area at night with talons and silent wings, the great horned owl. Its feathers have soft edges that muffle sound, letting it swoop down without a single flap being heard. The horns on its head are just tufts of feathers, used for intimidation and body language. Its talons are powerful enough to crush bones, and once it locks onto prey, it rarely lets go. These owls hunt everything from mice to other owls, sometimes even tackling animals larger than themselves when desperate or defending a nest. Unlike most birds, it will happily eat skunks, as its sense of smell is almost non-existent. They reuse old nests from hawks, herons or crows, rather than building their own. Young ones sometimes leave the nest before they can fly, clumsily climbing and hopping from branch to branch, while parents deliver food and fiercely defend them. Loud hooting calls carry far through the night to mark their territories and keep rivals at bay. The owls hunt where people once lived and worked, before their homes crumbled into mysterious stone piles, now called the Devil's Hole Ruins. It sits along a steep, rocky gorge, where the dark, narrow ravine and noisy water gave locals a spooky name that stuck. No one agrees on what these ruins were for, with guesses ranging from an old mill to a secret hideout, but no clear records exist to solve the mystery. Moss, trees and vines now grow through the cracks, slowly pulling the stones apart, while locals say strange sounds and shadows give the site a creepy feel. As it fades into mystery, Mannheim Town grew strong and survived, a place built with intention and known for its glass-making past and orderly streets. It was laid out like a board game, with straight streets and numbered lots, giving the town a sense of order from day one. The founder gave it a coat of arms and tried to start a glass factory, while glassblowers later made bottles, windows and tableware that reached far beyond its borders. Every year, the town pays a single red rose, as rent to the original landowner's descendants, a quirky tradition that inspired the modern Rose Festival. While this town held onto its streets and customs, Frick's Lock Historic District, a nearby canal town, lost its people entirely and became a locked-off ghost village. It once buzzed with canal workers, boats and lock tenders who carefully controlled water levels, but the canal's closure left the town deserted. The buildings still stand with roofs, windows and some furniture inside, yet no one can live there because the area lies within a restricted water supply zone. Old tools, signs and everyday objects remain as if the residents just stepped away mid-task, giving the town an eerie snapshot of daily life. Trees and weeds now creep through porches and doorways, slowly reclaiming the buildings while leaving them strangely preserved. The quiet Schuylkill River winds past Boathouse Row, where early morning rowing crews glide along its calm waters. Once so polluted it caught fire, the river now hosts world-class rowing races and clean water events. Launching before sunrise, rowers keep the river busiest when most people are still asleep. Some of the oldest rowing clubs in the country maintain strict traditions for boat storage, training schedules, and club loyalty. Each boathouse belongs to a different club, lining up rival teams side by side. By afternoon, the river's calm morning surface can turn choppy, so timing and weather skills are essential for anyone on the water. Protected as landmarks, the boathouses require special approval for even minor repairs or paint changes. The elegant architecture contrasts sharply with the rough coal industry that once defined the region, still visible at sites like the Knox Coal Distribution Centre. This massive plant once sorted, washed and shipped coal non-stop, but now it stands empty, its rusted conveyor belts frozen mid-motion. Miners accidentally drilled into the river bottom, sending water rushing into the tunnel so fast that workers fled, leaving tools, carts and equipment behind. Some coal still sits in piles around the site, leftovers from the day operations abruptly stopped. The disaster here ended operations suddenly, while nearby Scotia declined slowly, leaving only crumbling foundations. Built to mine coal and make iron, the town lost its purpose when both industries died and people simply left. Today, the ruins sit scattered through thick woods, where hikers stumble on stone walls, cellar holes, and chimney bases hidden by brush. Scotia Barrens was stripped bare by logging and mining, leaving soil almost desert-like and struggling to recover. What appears as wild forest is actually a slow rebound from total environmental destruction, with every tree cut and pit dug. Old rail beds and coal pits still scar the ground, marking exactly where industry once tore through. Now that trees and plants have returned, the ruins host new residents who never knew the town existed, including howling packs of coyotes. They trot through broken stone walls and old cellars like it's their own playground, and use human ruins as safe paths and hiding spots. Coyotes den in old pits and hollows left by mining, which transform holes dug for iron and coal into nurseries for their pups. At night, their calls bounce off crumbling foundations, and a small group sounds like a huge crowd surrounding the forest. After people abandoned Scotia, these animals grew bolder, moving into spaces where houses, shops and tracks once stood. They hunt along old rail beds and wagon roads, following the straight, clear lines humans once used for hauling ore. In doing so, they quietly shape the land, and deer and smaller animals stay in check while they reclaim the ruins as their own. Above these silent stone ruins and prowling wild canines, another hunter watches the ground from the air, the northern harrier. It glides low over old mine pits and scrubby clearings, using the ruined town like a giant open-air hallway for hunting. Its face works a bit like a satellite dish, picking up tiny sounds of mice and voles hiding in grass grown over mining scars. Following the same straight lines people once cut for rail beds and roads, it now uses these paths to guide its search instead of trains and wagons. The bird seems to float over the barrens, tilting from side to side so quietly that small animals don't notice until it strikes. Old foundations and stone piles attract rodents, and the harrier checks these broken spots as methodically as a child inspecting vending machines. In this way, a place once wrecked for coal now feeds a rare bird that visitors often miss, even while it soars right over them. From a vanished coal town to roaming wildlife, Eastern State Penitentiary looms, its walls once confining people under harsh rules and chilling design. The whole place looks like a giant broken castle on the outside, with fake front towers that fool people into thinking it is medieval. Inside, long dark cell blocks stretch out like spokes from a wheel, all meeting at a central guard tower that watched every move. Each prisoner stayed alone in a tiny cell with a single small window, up high like a skylight, cut off from all other humans. Some cells later added small, luxury touches like radios and simple furniture, sitting just a few steps away from crumbling, bare concrete cells. Long after it closed, visitors began reporting footsteps, voices and figures in empty blocks where no one had lived for years. What started as a strict experiment in total control is now better known as a haunted maze of ruins that still scares people in broad daylight. This is Pennsylvania, a land of hidden wonders and remarkable architectural marvels. Now, if you don't want to miss the most unreal wonders of Scottish Highlands, check out this video.